Weaning our children from 6 months is not an entirely correct statement. And as a specialist dietitian for children and parents, or as I like to call myself, the mindful family dietitian, I want to empower you and really explain to you why this statement isn't correct. I will give you some evidence-based information. I have actually done an assignment on this topic for my master's in pediatrics. So stay tuned and let me explain to you why this statement of weaning our children from 6 months is not entirely correct. Right, so I've got my assignment here in front of me. If you want a copy, please reach out to me. I did it for one of my master modules, and I basically critically appraise or critically look at this concept of wean your child from 6 months. Really? Is that entirely true? And I'm here to show you why it's not true. And actually we've got consequences associated with late weaning. Yes, 6 months could be late for your baby, depending on their development and their individual needs. So in this video, towards the end, I will give you the consequences of following this rule really rigidly. So please stay tuned and I'll explain. If you want a copy, please reach out. But let me just go through all of this because it's so important, especially if you're a mom or a dad and you've just had a baby and you don't know what to do. So where is this concept coming from, wean your child from 6 months? Well, it comes from the World Health Organization in 2001. They say that we need to exclusively breastfeed our children until 6 months because it is associated with a lower risk of infections. Now, why did they say that? Where does this evidence come from? And that's what I've broken down into in my assignment. I've looked into that. And they say that the main reason is it's associated with a lower risk of infections. And yes, breast milk is a wonder food, and we build our children's immune system by breastfeeding our children. But if you were to wean your child before 6 months, does that mean that they're higher risk of infections? Well, this study that they took this statement from, or they developed this statement from, was actually done in a developing country with less than 3,000 individuals. And it was an observational study. It wasn't like a good quality scientific study. And if you are a scientist, you know what I'm on about. But this is very important because how can we apply what was done in the developing world, apply that to somewhere in the UK or somewhere else in Europe or even America? Like, how can we apply that? Because obviously here we've got good hygiene. We don't, we are blessed. We don't have contaminated foods that could cause gastroenteritis in our children, contaminated water and things like that, as they have in the developing world. So we can't really take this statement literally and apply it to the Western world. So we need to dismiss that. It just is not good enough. Now, in the early 90s, the Department of Health here in the UK said you can wean your child from between 4 and 6 months. But then when this statement came out in 2001, even they changed their statement, and they're now saying that it's, let me find it here. It's desirable, I think the statement was. I can't find it now. But even then they changed their statement, and I guess, the WHO is the main organization, but we still need to be critical because the evidence that they may have to back up a statement, does that really apply to us here in the Western world? And this is an example of where it doesn't. Now, there are guidelines in Europe called the Esbjerg guidelines. I'll post everything down below this video so you can read more. But they say that exclusively a full breastfeeding for 6 months is desirable, but you can wean your child, you can introduce food between 17 weeks, but not, no later than 26 weeks. And they also say that kidney and stomach issues will not happen to your baby, because that's the fear. Lots of parents may fear that, oh, are their bowels or their stomach, is it mature enough to handle this food, and is it going to cause issues? If you wean from 17 weeks, if your baby is ready, obviously, your baby needs to show all the signs of readiness to feed, then you're fine. You just need a healthcare professional to help you. So if you need any help, please reach out to me and I can tell you, yes, your baby is ready. Okay, your baby is 17 weeks and showing readiness to feed. Let's get going. Why are we waiting? So everyone's saying something different, and that's why healthcare professionals are confused. Parents are confused. They're fearful of introducing solids before 6 months because, oh my God, what if something happened? But we are all individuals. We cannot take these guidelines literally. We need to look at the child and use common sense. And I absolutely love what the British Dietetic Association says, which is our obviously, as a registered dietitian, they are our main body. And they say that solid foods can start from 17 weeks and no later than 6 months. And they also say that we need to manage infants individually as they develop at different rates. Now, that's just common sense, isn't it? But it's just lovely that the BDA, British Dietetic Association, have put that in one of their statements that you can also find online, actually. So basically, the guidelines are conflicting. But one thing is for sure. You can wean your baby from 17 weeks. Yes, from 17 weeks and no later than 6 months, if your child is ready. So I'm not going to go into the readiness to wean signs, but you can refer, I think I've written a blog about that, or contact me or contact your health visitor. Now, sometimes health visitors can be quite strict. You need to wean your child from 6 months. I have a lot of colleagues in the past when I worked in a previous job in a hospital, and I always said to them, no, it's not true. And, you know, we had a great relationship. If you're out there watching this and you're a health visitor, we are colleagues. Now that I'm a freelance dietitian, it doesn't mean that you're not my colleague anymore. But what I'm here to say is that we cannot be strict about this whole concept of weaning from 6 months, because it's not correct. Parents can wean their babies from 17 weeks if the child is ready. So, what are the consequences of weaning our children late? The first consequence of not weaning our children when they are clearly ready to have some food is the most common one I see, which is weight loss. I see so many children who, if you look at their red book, and if you're a parent out there, look at the red book, and you'll see that sometimes when your baby is about 12 weeks or 15 weeks, they dip. And developmentally, your child is probably already showing signs. They are showing an interest in food. They are developmentally more advanced, because every child is different. But obviously you can't wean your baby yet. And I often see that they have that dip. And I say to parents, obviously by examining the child as well, I can now see, yes, your child will be ready at 17 weeks. Or no, you need to wait this amount of time. That comes with practice, obviously. But weight loss is the most common one. So if your child is showing the readiness to feed signs, and your child is 17 weeks, why are you hesitating? Why are you hesitating? You've got no reason to fear anything. What you need to do is ask your dietitian, ask your GP. They may say, oh, actually, I can't, you need to wait 6 months. Well, now you've got this video, and I'll post the guidelines underneath this video. You can even reach out to me. I'll post you my master's assignment, and you can say, actually, this is what these guidelines say, and this is what this one says. So is this entirely correct? Why not? You're a parent. You need to be empowered, and that's what I'm here to do with you. So weight loss is the most common one. So why wait if your child is ready. Number 2. Now, children are born with good iron stores. Unless your child is a preterm baby, then this is all totally different. But again, you're more than welcome to reach out, because I also work with preterm infants. But if we're born term, we are born with good iron stores. And actually, as we grow and as we then want to feed, because the body will tell the child, I need food now because my iron stores are depleting. That's another reason why they show readiness to wean signs, because the body is so clever. It's like, okay, milk is not enough now. I need some food, and especially iron-rich foods as well, because my iron stores are depleting. So I often see that children who are not weaned adequately on time, and especially if it's very delayed, that they really struggle with also iron deficiency anemia. And if a child has iron deficiency anemia, the issue is they then don't want to feed at all, because if we have low iron stores, it actually causes low appetite. So we need to listen to our children. They are showing signals. They know best. They are in tune with their body. We are not. We are only in tune with rules. But the child is in tune with their body. So if they're ready, perhaps it's the body saying, you know what, my stores are depleting. I need more energy. I need more nutrients. Please feed me, mommy. Please feed me. Number 3. And this happens 99% of the time. If a child was ready to wean from 17 weeks or from 20 weeks, but wasn't because of strict guidelines and following the rules rigidly, include increased feeding difficulties. This happens so often. And that's because the child missed that opportunity. They were ready. They wanted to have some food. And then they were just fed milk. They were fed milk and more milk and more milk. And we often find that this child will then just want to drink milk, because that's what it's been taught, to just drink milk. And that's another issue on its own, because milk does not contain enough nutrients for a growing baby. A baby needs to, at some point, have food. Milk is just not enough. So increased feeding difficulties I see a lot in children who were weaned at a later stage, because parents missed that window of opportunity. And I also see that parents then get into a vicious cycle, because the baby wants to then just have milk, and then the parents will introduce solids, but then baby will gag, or parents will be scared that they're then choking, which they're actually not, because the gag reflex is a natural reflex. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. Parents are fearful. Child is introduced to solids, but because it was late, they just want milk. And then when parents give them some solids, they gag. And then parents get scared because they think they're going to choke. So they give them more milk. And there we go. The child isn't introduced to solids properly, and it's just milk, milk, milk. And that's another issue on its own. So, do you see, there are lots of consequences of not feeding our children when they're ready to feed. So it's brilliant to have guidelines out there, but we need to be careful that we are not missing the signs and using our common sense. You're a parent, if your child is ready to wean. Oh my God, it's so clear sometimes. Baby's like, give me food, give me food. So again, make sure you contact someone who can advise you and help you, your own dietitian, your GP. You're more than welcome to contact me. I provide online help and support to parents all over the world, and I'm here to give you, empower you towards better nutrition. And better nutrition is also about when do we feed our children at the correct moment in time. So it's Nishti here. If you have any questions, please comment below, like or share this video. If you don't like what I've said, please also, I would love to hear from you, because it's always great to get a debate going. Have a lovely day, everyone.